Kelsey Zeiser, Senior Editor at Light Reading, and we're here at Automation Everywhere in Dallas, and I'm joined by Kevin McBride with CenturyLink. Good to see you.
Good to see you, Kelsey.
Yeah, so you delivered a keynote today, and we're on a few panels, and one thing you said that change is hard and don't panic. How has CenturyLink adjusted their culture in the move toward network automation, and how do you avoid panicking, I suppose?
Yeah, so the don't panic comment is just about, after attending this event, there's a lot of questions still in your head, like how are we going to get to this next generation network and this data-driven network? And I think what's going to be key is that not one person has the answers to everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if they do, you should be suspicious. So the whole drivers of this is moving to the next generation data-driven network requires a lot of change. Change is hard on operations folks, on the day-to-day jobs they've been doing for the last, 7 to 10 years. And, they've been adaptable to, new technologies coming in the network, but the new technologies such as NFV and SDN are really transformative, meaning they have a lot of disruption underneath as well. Mm-hmm. And I think if you just, have good teams formed around the change and celebrate success so that other people see that team is, being successful, it helps drive motivation for people to want to be part of that team too, and that culture of the change, right? Mm-hmm. And so then change doesn't become such a scary thing when you have a team of success, right? Sometimes people look at change too as like, there's risk associated with change, and being part of that change can sometimes be a negative thing. But I think having the success and celebrating that success so the other teams within your organization see what's going on, I think it helps promote that new group and what that group's trying to push within the company, right? Mm-hmm. Especially telco.
Right.
Yeah.
And another thing that you talked about was that automation could be the glue toward a data-driven network. Can you tell us more what you mean by that?
So for the last 5 years that I've been working on SDN and NFV, most of the automation that we've been deploying into the network is related to our orchestration systems like the NFVO and the macro orchestration layer that we're gluing on top. The next iteration of this is taking all those domain-specific controllers, the strategic ones, not the super legacy orchestration systems, and the new glue is the automation layer that sits on top of all those different verticals of orchestration and is able to own the full end-to-end forwarding graph and service chain and have the ability to communicate and deploy services into those microservices verticals underneath.
Mm-hmm. And what are some things that telcos could learn from other industries? You talked about shipping and logistics, and also some of those hyperscale or web scale players in their journey toward more network automation.
So a couple of times during the panels, I kind of took a step back from the networking side of things. So I mean, we always talk about networking, right? But when you look at a carrier, we have so much to what it takes to deliver the network itself. We have real estate, we have the plant that's outside buried underneath or aerial above your head, and it takes a lot to run that infrastructure. So I think the learnings from other industries, such as the shipping container world, like I was giving examples of when I sit on the Hyatt rooftop in Seattle and watch the ships tilt back and forth, and looking at what we do in our network is, we have to embrace automation from every industry. Mm-hmm. Not only are they our customers and we need to understand what they're using so that they can interact with our network better, but we have not just networking technologies. We have vehicles moving around, we have logistics with CPE devices going to customers, logistics with equipment arriving at our facilities to be installed, and the transformation that's going to be occurring there with automation is actually going to be quite interesting. So if you look at us beyond just the networking side of how automation is going to affect us, it's going to be quite prevailing, not just in the network, but also in how we interact with the customers as well. Mm-hmm. So
another point that you made was that you might not necessarily need to automate all processes and perhaps avoid automating badly designed processes. Tell us more about what you mean by that and what service providers need to avoid.
So CenturyLink, we have some really complicated services that are deployed across multi-vendor environments. So sometimes it's 30 steps to go touch various systems to obtain information like an IP address or next available port, or even topology information for setting up a circuit across the network. And what's important is, especially as we were deploying new NFV services within CenturyLink, that we didn't want to go reinvent the entire provisioning cycle. But what we wanted to go do was automate the processes that were more user script generated or user instantiated kind of scripts, and any kind of swivel chair kind of processes. We went after those. And of course, when you get into a swivel chair kind of process review, you find some bad processes in there too. So what's important is don't automate the bad processes. Mitigate them, come up with a new process that replaces that process, or don't automate that process and leave it red flagged and let the organization fix the process. If you automate bad processes, you're just going to have automated bad processes. So,
Right, makes
and
sense.
the biggest thing is you don't have to automate every step. If you can automate steps 12, 15, 19, and 26, and they provide, out of deploying like a layer 3 VPN service, and those are the pieces that are needed to deploy this new on-demand dynamic service, then you should automate those pieces first. That way you can get the dynamic service out while you're still going back and going through the old processes and getting them into your new system.
Okay, so taking a really deliberate approach to it then.
Absolutely.
Well, thanks so much. It's been a pleasure speaking with you.
Awesome. Thank you, Kelsey.